All right, today I'm excited to welcome Shannon Russell to the show. Shannon, thanks for joining me. How's it going today?
Good, Brian. Thanks so much for inviting me. I'm excited.
Oh yeah, it's great. Pod Match. We hooked up on Pod Match. This is another Pod Match interview where the majority of the ones in this show are. It's a great service. You sent me out a message and I looked at your profile and it seemed like a great match. On the show, we like to talk about how people got to where they're at, their life journeys, twists and turns. But in order to figure that out, I like to start where you're at now, and people can learn how you got there. So if you could introduce yourself, let the audience know who you are, what you got going on now, and then we'll figure out how you got there.
Thanks. Yeah. So, Shannon Russell, I am a career transition and business coach, and I help people leave their 9 to 5s and start a business using the experience and skills that they've had throughout their career.
Sounds right in the wheelhouse of my target audience because I like to resonate with people that are looking for inspiration, career change. Maybe they're stuck. Maybe they've had a detour and they're really not sure what they're doing. So, man, you're right in that wheelhouse. So I appreciate you being here. Let's go back, and I even like to go back to when you were a kid. Shannon's running around as a little girl. Did you want to be a movie star? Did you want to be a nurse? Like there was always those stereotypical little girl things that you wanted to be, or did you want to be a baseball player?
I wanted to be a movie star. I wanted to work in Hollywood since I was so little. I had a California bank where I would save money to get to California one day. So, yeah, it started really early on for me.
Was that fostered by your parents? Were they supportive in this and kind of gave you a path, or was this kind of a secret dream that you just always kept to yourself?
No, it wasn't secret. My parents were both, married at 18, didn't go to college, just very blue collar and never left our hometown. So for me, it was just that big, like, I've got to get out of here. Grew up on the East Coast and wanted to go to the furthest away on the West Coast. But yeah, they all knew about it. I would perform plays for the family. I just always wanted to be in Hollywood. But then it started, and they were supportive. They let me do dance and theater classes and all of that, but they didn't know how to get me to Hollywood and get that happening. So it wasn't until college where I studied communications and film and got into the behind the scenes of Hollywood and became a producer.
So you actually followed that right through and pursued it in college and found your own way to kind of push yourself into that niche. Uh, was there was there always the draw to? Did you always want to be the actress? And realized it wasn't your thing, or how did that kind of transition going into the behind the scenes?
Yeah, that's a great question. I did always want to be an actress. I did the plays in high school and all of that. But I went to a taping of a morning show in New York City with my grandma, and I saw it was Regis and Kathy Lee at the time. And I saw they always talk about their producer, Michael Gelman. And I was like, what does a producer do? And I went home and I started, like, at the library at the time, like researching like what a producer does. And I said, ooh, I think I don't want to say more realistic, but like, that is maybe a little bit more stable than trying to be an actress. So I decided to just dig in and be kind of the brains behind the idea for a television show or a movie.
It seems like a greater possibility for success also, that you have more avenues to pursue in that, and not necessarily even producer, but in the behind the scenes. You have the person out front, but we all know that it's a team of people behind for every one you have up front. I think that was a wise choice, and so you pursued it. Got a job in television as a producer. Was that right out of college? Did you find something, or was there a kind of a path to go there?
Yeah, I got a couple internships in college in Manhattan. I grew up in New Jersey, so it was pretty close. And I started my career at MTV back when it was cool and played music. So that was in New York City. I worked there for about 3 or 4 years, and then went to California and continued to work with MTV throughout most of my career. But I also did reality and E News, and dabbled in a million other companies out in California.
MTV, when they actually played music. I remember that. I don't quite remember the launch of MTV, but I definitely lived through the heyday and the downfall for
Yeah,
sure.
yeah.
That was right about.
Same.
I'm a late 70s baby, so I was
Same.
right. Okay, yeah. So I know
Yeah.
exactly what you're talking about. I
So
could
I was there
definitely
for
see.
like Carson Daly and TRL and like the good stuff, you know, and
Yep.
then it just kind of went down from there.
I mean, everything has its time and place. So
Yeah.
I applaud you on being part of the successful part of MTV.
It
So
was fun.
you got to fulfill that childhood dream, and what would ever happen that you just it wasn't enough? What made you change, and you didn't want to be there anymore? Because you obviously transitioned away from it. You're not currently.
Mm-mm. Yeah, that's great. And that really is like kind of my aha moment is we were living in LA, had my first son, moved back to the East Coast to be closer to family, and I was pregnant with my second son and working in Manhattan, and I had about a 90-minute commute, and my husband's a producer as well. So it was stressful, and it was always on me to get to the bus, to the train, to get back to the suburbs. And I was about 8 months pregnant with my little one, and I was like, no, like all of a sudden I'll never forget, I left the city early. I was supposed to interview Taylor Swift, and I said, "Nope, I gotta get home to daycare." So I left my team to do it, and there was something while I was sitting on that commute home that I was like, "You know what? I accomplished everything I wanted to accomplish. Now I wanna really be a present mom and figure out what my second act is," and that's where everything started turning for me. So it wasn't that I hated my job, it was that I think it fulfilled this dream of mine, and I just wanted to try a new adventure.
You probably saw value in everything that was away from work.
Yeah.
You said you had your daughter, you're pregnant, almost ready to have another.
Yeah.
You obviously like I've been through having that child. It changes your life. It flips you upside down, and possibly looking back and looking at that, going, I'm doing this again now with two, um, and being on a train commuting. I could see it. I could see it. Did you listen to yourself right then, or was it a long process? Was it a smack in the face and you said, I'm done? You were close to giving birth.
Yeah.
Was that a good transition point?
Yeah, so actually the wheel started turning, and then about a month or so later when I was on maternity leave, my show was canceled. And so in the entertainment industry, you pick up the phone and you call the next person, you get the next job. And I said, nope, I'm going to use this as a sign from the universe that this is my time to see what else I can do. So I did ask myself at that point, and I said, like, am I happy? And as much as I loved it, I wasn't going to be happy to miss another first birthday and miss Halloween and all of this stuff. And put pressure on my family to pick up the slack when my husband and I were away traveling. You know, there was a lot of that guilt too. And so, yeah, I just started really turning inward and asking myself, but there was a good year where I was struggling, trying to figure it out, trying to do everything I thought society thought I needed to do, go for that master's degree and get that 9 to 5 job at this toxic, awful place. And, just to pay the bills. And then I finally was like, you know what? I'm going to produce my own life and figure out. And then, that's when I got into entrepreneurship and opened my first business.
When you were struggling and trying to figure out what next, obviously you're taking into account the family and the time away from family and all of that. You said you struggled through trying to break out of society's what we're supposed to do and how we're supposed to progress, and found entrepreneurship. That's another struggle.
Yeah.
What was the process like figuring out what to do? I mean, we can all say we want to open our own business, we want to work for ourselves, we want to do something like that, but there's a lot of disconnect into how to get from there to I got an idea and let's do it.
Yeah. No, you're absolutely right. And I think I was so depressed, I would say, at that time, or just struggling to figure it out and at this really toxic job that I would cry in my car at lunch and listen to podcasts. And it was something that Marie Forleo said that was like, you can figure it out. You can do it yourself. And I guess maybe it was later that night or within that week or so after I felt like I had really had this breakthrough. My 3-year-old was building with Legos and he was quiet. It was like the only time he would like get in his zone. And I started thinking if I were to open a business, I'd want to still be with my kids and I'd want to open a business that would teach children like STEM education, right? Science, technology, engineering, and math. And I started researching what would it be like to open like a children's center where they can build and think like engineers. And as I was researching, because I'm really big on research before you leap. And I started researching and I found a franchise that did just what I was thinking. And so I started having conversations and researching the franchise. And for me, as a first time business owner, it was worth me investing in that franchise to have that support from the corporate office and other franchisees and have the curriculum and the marketing materials. And I always say it's like a business in a box if you get a good franchise. So for me, that was the best thing I did. And I started to see, wow, my skills are really transferring. What I took an idea as a producer and made a show. I'm taking this idea and growing a business.
So I'm vaguely familiar with what a TV producer does, but it's the management of the idea and putting all the pieces in place to make that a reality. It sounds just like building a business.
Yeah. But it took time for me to realize that. I think sometimes when we're in our own world, we think that what we do and our skills, anyone can do, right? We downplay it. And so when I started looking at it, I was like, I think this is possible. And then that business, I was able to grow and become one of the top in the first 2 years of my business. I was in the top 3 of all the franchisees. So I saw that it was working. And now the naysayers around me were seeing that it was working. And I had that flexibility with my family. And I was like, I am loving this. I want to start another business, because then my wheels again were going.
You had people that said you probably shouldn't give up being a producer and throw it all away to do something crazy like opening a franchise.
Oh, you bet, Brian. It was, my husband, all of my friends who were in the industry were very concerned. Like, oh my gosh, she's going crazy after the second baby. What's going on? But I think that's where like turning inward and having that conversation with yourself helps to keep you on that path. And I always advise my clients, do your research, get confident before you tell other people. Like keep your idea close to your chest before you start broadcasting it to the world, because you want to be 1,000% sure so that you can tune out those people and you can say, thank you so much for your concern. I'm going to do this thing and I'll talk to you on the other side.
I think if you wait too and you're that 1,000% in, those people become less detractors and more motivation because it's right for you. They don't know you. And I hear that a lot on here with people taking leaps is I knew it was right for me. They didn't know. They were worried about the things that they're worried about in their life, paying their bills and this and that. But you know what I was concerned about? Being fulfilled on a daily basis and being around my family. And this new path achieves that. So screw off to the people that don't understand me. And I'm going to show them it is right and be successful. I think that could be a huge motivator. But like you said, be sure you're right, because the people in your ear, and I think this is a lot of people growing up in our era. We're similar ages. There was a lot of that from parents and educators. You got to do the right thing. Do the right thing. Don't go off on your own and be creative.
No, that's the generation, I think, our parents' generation that was like, and ours, a lot of people in ours, stick with it, choose your career at 20, and that's what you're going to ride it out until retirement. And I think
everybody hates their job.
Yeah. Who am I to change? Doesn't everyone hate it? Let's suck it up.
Right. So you were successful. Were you more fulfilled? Were you able to have that family time with the new franchise that provided those opportunities, and you were successful with it? You said you wanted to start another business.
Yeah. I know. I'm like that, never satisfied person, always going after the next shiny object. But yeah, it was so much. I was satisfied and it was fulfilling in a different way than television was. I think I was excited for the new challenge and, using those skills. And I was really connecting with my community because it was a very community-based business. So I was meeting other moms and dads and teaching children. So I felt like I was giving back and still being able to be with my boys. So it was really good in that sense. But then it was really, what was interesting is customers would come to me and say, because in the beginning I taught most of the classes. And so the parents would say, what grade did you teach? You must have been such a great teacher. And I'd say, well, actually, I'm a television producer. And it would spark that conversation. And then with where we lived, like 90 minutes from Manhattan, they would say, can you help me? I don't want to do this commute anymore. And so I would help customers kind of figure out their pivot. And then I would start helping friends who saw that I was finding success in my business. And I said, you know what? There's a big need for people who feel stuck and don't know how to wiggle through to try what it is they want to do. And especially, I felt like, especially moms, just seeing it in my community of moms who are like, well, I really can't. My husband won't let me. And I should wait till the kids are out of, this stuff that just drives me insane. So I really was like, you know what, there's something here. And so I started my coaching business about, I think, like 3 or 4 years into my franchise business.
I think we get trapped, and whether it's on purpose or not, like a lot of my stuff has got some ulterior, like I'm very questionative of motives of like society and all of
Oh
that.
yeah.
You've mentioned some of that stuff. I
Yeah.
think there may be a concerted effort or maybe not, and it's just what happens is people get stuck where they're at. They get in that 20 years, and the reason why everybody's like, you got to stay there for 20 years is because they're stuck,
Yeah.
and they need to make it okay that they're not doing anything by saying, well, this is just what you got to do. But there is a big cost to switching careers and trying to be your own boss to start a business, and I think a guiding hand in that and walking through it and doing it right can save a lot of people a lot of headache.
Hmm. Yeah, because I did it on my own, like flailing around during that interim time. And so now I'm like, yeah, it's exactly. And now I want to be able to be that accountability partner, or at least give people that permission that they can at least try it. Because I think you and I have both done this. So we know that, like, at the end of the day, we tried what we wanted to try. And if it didn't work out, we can always go back to what we were doing, but we don't want to
Right.
have that regret at the end of the day, right? Like, let's just try it. Give yourself that permission.
There was so when my wife and I, we talked earlier before the show that my wife and I moved into an RV full time and sold our farm in Minnesota. When we were getting ready to do that, there were a lot of, you can't do that. That's insane. It'll never work. This, that. I had a conversation with my wife's grandfather, who was at the time, he was in his mid to late 90s and been through World War II and through all the things, massive heart attack at 40, worked a long career. And he looked at it and he was so interested in our farm. And then he was so interested in our project of moving into the RV. And like we retrofitted it to be off grid and like we don't need hookups or anything. Um, and he said, do it, do it. And I'm like, okay. And I was questioning whether we were really making the right decision. And he
Right.
said, if you don't do it every day for the rest of your life, you're going to wonder what would happen, whether it was successful or failure or whatever happens, you will
Mhm.
always wonder what could have been.
Yeah.
So make the decision you think is right. And he made it okay. That one person, the one
Yeah.
person that, I mean, obviously he'd been around here 90 plus years and had seen a few things.
Yeah.
But that one conversation happened, that was what made it okay and made
Mhm.
us motivated and made it all right to do. So that one voice that you're providing for someone and the guidance on top of that can make all the difference in just taking that first step.
Yeah, and I just want to piggyback on what you just said. I often say to people, do it for our grandparents. Do it for our grandparents. Like, my grandma was a lunch lady and the other grandma was a secretary. They just didn't have the opportunities. They were not given the opportunities that we have. So when you think of something else that might be a little outside of the box, think about them and do it, because they might have wanted to be dancers on Broadway, or, like your wife's grandfather might have wanted to do this himself. And the fact that you can do it with his blessing, like, that just gives me chills.
Right. Yeah, it was fantastic. And I mean, leaving it gave us permission. Like we didn't need
Yeah.
permission. It was our own lives. My wife and I were both on board. It wasn't like we were fighting about it or anything. It just, but it gave you that ultimate permission that somebody knows it's okay
A
and
wise person.
was verbal about it. Like
Yeah.
we knew our family supported us, and they're always supported. They're your family, well, not all families, but our
Mhm.
family. But that person that was like, yeah, yep, do it, do it. so
Oh.
so um, So you opened a business helping entrepreneurs get started, either take the step or in the infancy of their business. I
Mhm.
from what I see, how did that go? Did it scale well? Was there a big boom for it, a need for it? It seems like there would be.
Yeah, it you know what? It started off kind of slow because I was still running the other business as well. I actually sold that other business last year, so now I'm like right 100% into my coaching. But yeah, it started with and surprisingly so, a lot of local moms and dads in my area because they knew of my other business. So they came to me and said, "I want a business like yours." And so that's where it really started organically in my area. And then I started getting people outside of my area and across the country and in Canada and all of that. So it started, organically in my area and was enough for me to it was the right amount of business in the beginning. But I'm still scaling all the time, still trying to like reach new people and, you know, um keep it
That
going and just want to help more people. But yeah, it was good.
that commute's brutal. I mean, I grew up in Western New York, but had plenty of friends that were from down by the city. That
Yeah.
their parents going into the city, like I'm talking Rockland County,
Oh yeah.
New Jersey, different places. That commute, yeah, no,
Yeah.
not for me.
No, and you would see people, like older people who just looked dead, like, they just looked absolutely miserable, and you're like, "I can't do this forever." No.
So someone would reach out to you and they had an idea or they needed an idea and you were almost like an incubator for that small business, like a personal coach guiding them along the way. Did you develop a certain pattern or was it individual per customer? Were you able to customize that?
Yeah, so I'm a certified in UMAP, which is a career profile assessment. So I do that with all of my clients at first. It kind of outlines your personality, your skills, your talents, what you want to do moving forward. So you can look at that when you're thinking about moving into a business to make sure it aligns. So I do that with everyone. And then I really did start developing over the first year or so my like second act strategy, I call it. But it's really all about appreciating where you came from first, like acknowledging your skills and your experience and realizing you don't have to grieve that career. You're actually excited to take that experience and move it forward. And then we look in looking at your skills and experience, taking those ideas, because sometimes people will come to me and they want that exit strategy help to actually quit the job, figure out when they're ready to do it. But they can start building the business while they're earning that paycheck, which I think a lot of people don't do and they should. And then some people will come to me with 10 different ideas. And so we've got to look at your skills and experience, look at the ideas, do that research. And sometimes, or most of the time, you end up just crossing those things off the list. Like, oh, that really doesn't feel right to me now that I've dove a little deeper. So yeah, so it kind of goes that way. And then when you're back to that research confidence piece, when you find that one, then we just go and we launch it and we start to scale. And yeah, it's really incredible.
I think there's a lot of time wasted pursuing things that aren't actually what you want to do.
Mhm.
You don't know what you don't know, and you only have your perspective on things. And I think someone like you is valuable to come in and say, "Hey, you're telling me X, Y, and Z, and you're presenting me with A, B, and X.
Yeah.
Um, let's get A, B out of there, and X is your winner."
Yeah.
I think those outside eyes are invaluable. And obviously it shows people keep coming back and are successful. So bravo to that
Mhm.
and recognizing that as a need. I appreciate that. We're kind of coming up on time. You have some things coming up soon, and why don't you take some time, let people know about your current coaching service, anything you got coming up, where they can find you, any parting thoughts. I can give you the stage for as long as you really want. So
Oh, thank you.
take it away.
Yeah. Thanks. Yeah. So I work with people one on one and they can customize it from 8 weeks if you just have to make your move like in a shorter amount of time, 6 months. And then I have people who stay with me longer that just want me to help them continue to scale their business. So it's really customizable. I have a program coming out in the next couple of months that is my Second Act Accelerator, which is like a group coaching and course and all of that together. But my most exciting thing is my new book. So I wrote a book called Start Your Second Act: How to Change Careers, Launch a Business, and Create Your Best Life. So it's kind of that tool and resource of everything that I teach and everything that I preach. And it's in a book. There's action items and questions. And it's just for someone who maybe won't work with me one-on-one, but they can get the book and start taking some small steps towards action for a second act. So that's it.
Everybody learns different. I mean, and
Yeah.
everybody takes coaching way different. I think it's phenomenal that you put it all into a book. That's really saying, you know, what I have is valuable and it's worth this time for me to both put it into this format, and also I feel that it's worth people taking the time to digest it. So
yeah, I was able to share my transition story and everything I went through, and then a ton of stories and examples from my clients, my podcast guests, celebrities. Like I just packed it full of, if that person can do it, I can do it, because I think that's what helps motivate us as well.
perfect.
And then I have a second act journal, which is a freebie that you can grab. It's at startyoursecond.com, and you can
Okay.
get more information on the book there as well.
Perfect. I'll have let me say secondactsuccess.co. Is that still
That's my main website, and you can get to my book from there as well.
okay? Perfect.
Yeah.
And you said you had a podcast. Let's talk about podcasts real quick,
Yeah.
and we can send some people over there to listen.
Awesome. Yeah, the podcast actually started right at the beginning of my business too, right when I started coaching. It's called Second Act Success, and it's just all sharing stories. So I interview people on how they made their transition to a second act. So Brian, I have to have you come on and talk about yours, because
once my second act is in full swing, we'll definitely have to talk about that. I'm kind of I'm in the intermission right now, I think.
You are. But honestly, the fact that you're living in an RV like full time, like, like that's just an incredible move that so many people dream of. So give yourself
Yeah.
props for that. That's incredible.
I'm very
Yeah.
comfortable with everything we've achieved. I just not where I'm
Yeah.
at, and I have
Okay.
to stay hungry. So,
Yeah, for sure. Always. Yeah.
so
But
um, Second Act Success Career Podcast. I'll have a link for that, and then socials. People catch up on your socials. Are you active out on most of them? And I
yeah,
can get
and I'm
those links
second.
down there too.
Yeah, I'm Second Act Success on LinkedIn. I hang out there a lot. I'm Shannon Russell, career coach.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Shannon, I appreciate you being here, and when we roll into some longer format content, I'd love to have a long chat with you. I encourage anybody that's thinking about transitioning to self-employment or opening a business, already there and needs a little help or guidance along the way, to check out your stuff, to follow up with you, to possibly buy the book when it comes out, or book some coaching. I appreciate you being here, and I can't wait to talk soon.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Brian.